Introduction for today.
I'm Dave Scott. I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm married. I have two kids, two sons. One is a ASC master mechanic, and the other one is a Navy cybersecurity person. He's a cryptology technician maintenance, CTM, in the Navy. Those of you that are Navy people might recognize that. I'm a military trained biomed. I went to military biomed school at Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center a long time ago when that was actually an Army base. And I've been working in biomed for 36 years now. And I ironically work at the same campus now where I started out at, only a few blocks from where the school was that I went to. And now that it's more like a hospital campus. I've been presenting at MD Expo since 2015. And I'm kind of known for CBET review stuff. That's kind of where kind of got my start. I've been doing that since 2004. Probably helped about close to 3,000 people now. You're one of them. All right. It's always nice to meet some of the people that were in my class for CBET review, but a lot of people know me through that. A couple over here too. Yeah. So pass it over to you, Douglas.
Okay, I'm impressed because you did all of that without reading the screen.
Oh, I have this screen right.
Oh, you're looking right there. Well, I'm Douglas Red.
That's why I chose this side.
For Fort Worth, Texas. So I'm back home, loving it. I have 4 kids, 3 adults, and I'm adventurous. So I have a 2-year-old now. And graduated from Texas Southern University. I'm the regional director for Piedmont Healthcare in Georgia. And what's my next one? I've been speaking at the MD Expo since 2018. So I think this is like my 6th time doing a presentation. Do after school programming. I have a mistake here, I see, but I've taught thousands of students over the years of doing what I do. And I'm also a children's book author. Got my book that just came out this summer. It's the #1 selling book on Amazon, and it's still doing very good. I see the sales picking up through the Christmas holiday, so I'm enjoying that part and glad to be here and present to you all today. All right, so let's get started.
Imposter syndrome. Who knows what imposter syndrome is? Anybody? People have heard of that? Okay. For those who don't, imposter syndrome is a psychological phenomenon characterized by persistent self-doubt. So you kind of think, I'm not the person to do this. Even Douglas and I we were talking about this, and we still have some of that imposter syndrome, even though we said like we've been presenting for quite a while. And recently I did a presentation at CBET, which is the Colorado Biomed Association. And one of the people, the vice president asked me, Dave, how many presentations have you done? And I kind of thought about it, and I said, I've been doing stuff since 2004, and it's been probably in the hundreds. And I still feel like I'm not really the person to do this, but it's a little bit scary sometimes getting in front of people. And the biggest scare I have is when I present locally at the Colorado Biomed Association, because I know all the people, and they'll always remember when I screw up. And I actually saw one of them in the hallway earlier, and he said, did you fix that slide on the presentation you have, which I'll talk about later in our presentation here. But that's kind of imposter syndrome. Do you want to add anything, Douglas?
Yeah, just David already had this class set up, and he invited me to come speak with him. And when I saw the subject matter, I was like, that's great, because I definitely have some input on that. So the point of this session is to actually just kind of give some advice to without younger techs, and maybe relevant for everybody, just some things that you can keep in mind to overcome imposter syndrome. But I was telling him about the time I was once opening up a biomed tech school, went through the whole process, had staff and everything. And I can remember it was my concept, my idea, and building is there, hired all the staff. And I was in a room, my board and all of the instructors were MBA and PhDs, and I have a bachelor's degree. And so even though it was my idea and I put the thing together, I was in the room and feeling like, oh, do I belong? Right? So that's imposter syndrome playing a part, making you doubt yourself, right? And so y'all can see some of the stuff listed. So it's something that we all experience, but it's something that you have to remind yourself to get past. So
overcome it.
Overcoming, yes, sir. All right, let's get going.
The first one is big.
Oh, that's mine.
That's you. I don't want to steal your slides.
So one of the first tidbits or things that you have to do is look at the big picture. As I just said, like even when I was opening the school, sometimes you have to keep in mind what you're actually doing, right? And so you can remind yourself. So I have never lose sight of the big picture, put patient safety first. Every repair, PM, and decision ultimately ties back to patient outcomes. Your work literally helps save lives, right? And so for the new techs that just getting started, you have to keep in mind, or for the people who are already here, you have to keep in mind what you're actually doing, right? And then make sure that you say to yourself, I belong. I was hired, right? So somebody saw it in me that I should be here. And so you can step into that role. And the big picture in mind is that I can do this work, right? So that's one of the first things you want to make sure that you do is look at the big picture, right? And step forward in that manner, right?
Mine is my advice to new people in the field is to always save your money. If your company has a matching program, then that's the minimum that you should be putting in. And if you put it in, it's all pre-tax money. So it's where I work at currently, it's 3%. So if you were just putting in 3%, it's not going to make a big difference in your paycheck. But the biggest thing about saving money like that is time. And I have some tips on here. The first one is the rule of 72. Do a Google search, rule of 72 investing. And basically that is 72 divided by the interest rate tells you how many years it'll be for the money to double. It's kind of an estimate, but it's pretty close. So the biggest thing to take away from this is the more time you have it in there, and you'll see if you search this investment interest calculator, the more time it's in there, the more time it has to double, and the more money you'll have for your retirement, and possibly even be able to retire early. I was just talking to one of my friends the other day. His birthday's the day before mine, and he turned 50 this year. And I said, what are you doing now? You know, he's still working. He worked at Philips. And he said, no, Dave, I'm retired. Like, you just barely turned 50. And he said, well, I invested my money and I made a bunch of money on Bitcoin. And I said, I'm done. That's it. And so now he's enjoying life at 50 years old, retired. And he had been doing that for quite a while. But the biggest calculation is that time part. So the younger you can start, the more years you have. So I put on here, time plus interest equals big money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I needed this that message like some years ago.
Like 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Another thing, as far as techs, and how many biomed techs in here are imaging? We have any techs in the room? Only one. So we got, our target audience is not in the classroom, but you want to focus on customer service. When I was a tech, I prided myself in that. So you can fix the equipment, right? But you don't want to just be the fix-it person. Like, so you think, for instance, like, when do you call a plumber? When do you see a plumber? When you need them, right? So we're in a hospital setting, and you don't want to be the person that just comes out when they need you. So most times it's a big hospital, but you're going to have a area of specialty. You're going to have your own department, and you should own that department, right? They should see you even when there's not a problem. So you're going to do rounding, and you're going to get to know your customers, and that's going to help you with your job, right? And so you take ownership of it, and that makes everything better for you. So build trust with nurses, physicians, and staff by being approachable, responsive, and solution-oriented. So I'd like to say, I used to tell my old techs, think like Chick-fil-A, right? Have you ever had bad service at Chick-fil-A? I haven't. I only had one time where Chick-fil-A messed up my order, and they gave me an extra sandwich, right? They never not give me what I needed. They gave me more. I took it back, all right? But anyway, so you want to make sure you're providing great service, not just being a fix-it person.
I have a friend that he has been working in biomed probably longer than me, and he always says, Dave, working in biomed is not about fixing things, it's about building relationships. He said, so if you have a good relationship with the customer, if something goes wrong, they still know that you have their best interest at heart. So that's kind of the same type of thing as building relationships.
Yeah. Thank you.
Get an early start. If you're young, that's the best time to get your certification or schooling or any other credentials that you're going to want to have. If you think maybe later on you might get into management, like Douglas started out with, you had a bachelor's degree when you started in working, right? Yeah. So I didn't have that, and it's kind of one of my biggest regrets looking back at my career, saying, I should have done my education stuff earlier. I have an associate degree and I'm a certified biomed, but I don't have bachelor's degree. And later on in my career, I kind of got into management for a little bit, and I saw that was the biggest stumbling block for me, is that I didn't check that box. And one of my friends says, I didn't have that piece of paper, he
Right.
called it.
Yeah.
But it's better to do that when you're younger and don't have a family and don't have other responsibilities. Also, studying for the CBET takes some time to commit yourself. And it's just, I always tell people it's maybe a month or two out of your life, probably more like 2 months out of your life. And then you move on. Once you pass it, you're done with it. And getting a degree obviously takes more time, but that's how that is. And then that other thing is, if you have tuition reimbursement at your workplace and you're not using it, and especially if you're a younger tech, it's money you're throwing away. You're not using it. It's more money that they want to give you if you want to study and learn more. But if you're not using it, it's just money that you're not taking, kind of like the 401k stuff that I was talking, the matching part. If you're not taking advantage of that matching part, it's money that you're throwing away too for tuition reimbursement.
Right. On your expertise, even early in your career, you can become the go-to subject matter expert in a particular modality of technology. So he kind of gave me a handout as we were talking about our slides. He reminded me of something when I was a younger tech, and that was when you're getting a new piece of equipment and you're checking it in, tagging it, do electrical safety, getting the manual and just trying to learn everything that you know about the equipment, right? So becoming an expert is something that you can do right off the bat, right? So it's a mindset and it's about intentionality, right? So whatever you get placed in front of you, you want to make sure that you try to become the SME, and that's something that you can do right off the bat. So as soon as you're tasked with some new equipment, a new job, a new anything, you want to make sure that you intentionally make yourself become the expert in it, right? And so that's something that we all can control. That's something that we can make it a goal, and you can make sure you put yourself at the top and become the go-to person by taking that extra step, right?
I've also found that sometimes if you can participate, if there's an install and you can participate in the install part. I used to work in imaging equipment, and I would work with the imaging people when they were installing the equipment. So I would know kind of how things are interconnected more. And I think also with monitoring systems, it's kind of like that same thing. And yeah, like Douglas said, if you can be the person that gets in at the beginning, you kind of have one up on everybody else. So.
And I saw here, I don't say it verbatim, but the confidence part of it, right? So a lot of times we don't become the expert, we're kind of laid back. But if you practice and you commit yourself to learning it, then it builds that confidence where you can step out, and when something comes up, you're like, I know. And that's a good place for you to be at.
Right? Even when you're going through that learning process, there might be stuff that comes up that you don't know, and it gives you a chance to research it before anybody else has it, and then you're kind of ahead of everybody else.
That's for sure. You got it? I saw you take a picture of this one. All right.
This will be posted on the TechNation TV's website too. The whole all the stuff in the conference. So, learning, you can learn from anyone. Treat everyone equally. Me being an older person, I have a lot more experience than a lot of the new techs that come and work in our shop, but they have experience in things that I don't have. Whenever I have a question on my cell phone, guess who I go ask? It's always the young techs in our shop. They seem to know that way more than I do, and I can always learn something from them, and they learn something from me, and we kind of trade off, and we all benefit from it.
Yeah, for sure. Perfect example. Right back in the back is one of my former students when I was an adjunct professor at Biomedical College. He won't remember, but I was trying to take screenshots, and I was doing the old-fashioned way, and there's something called a snippet. This is, everybody knows about it now, but there's a snippet little thing. Y'all know about that? And he showed me, you could just snip it. And he's younger, and he was, more
Someone
savvy.
showed me that too, a younger person.
Like, oh, that's easy. So, the young people, you can learn from them for sure, because they're more, adaptive to
that snipping was like a revelation for me when I figured that out. Or someone actually showed me that was younger too. And I'm like, I'm going to use that in my presentations. I can just look at anything and just take out the part that I need. And
for sure.
Yeah, I was like, why didn't I know about this earlier?
For sure. And I did a presentation in Canva, because I was using PowerPoint, and a young student said, "That's old school, Mr. Redwine. Use Canva." And I tried it out, and Canva's cool, right?
Yeah, I sent this presentation to Douglas in PowerPoint, and he said, "Dave, I'm going to redo it in Canva, and and I make it up a lot better and all that." And he sent it back to me, and I was showing my wife like my presentation in PowerPoint, which is the only thing that I'm really familiar with. And Douglas was telling me about Canva, and I'm like, I need to learn that. That's pretty cool. And he's a wizard in this thing. I told him.
All right. So participate. Always. Good morning. It's all silent when y'all walk in. Everybody's looking at you. Welcome. Okay, so participate. So I can't stress this enough. So what you want to you get buy-in, and you have a sense of ownership and belonging when you participate. So I was in my career for about 10 years before I started participating, right? And once I got involved, I was actually thinking about leaving this field, right? I felt like I was doing the work, got kind of bored. I'm an ADHD person, like, what more is there? But once I went to my first conference, and I went to my first HTM association meeting, I started meeting people in my field, right? And I started feeling like I belonged to a team, right? And so it helps you out. So it keeps you from just doing your job and opens you up to all of the great things, what's happening in our wonderful field. So you want to participate, attend conferences, you all are here, so y'all already doing that. Go to workshops, stay read up, and it's going to help you get the maximize this wonderful field that we're in.
Surprisingly, I have a very similar story. And I said something about the Colorado Biomed Association starting that certification review, but I was attending CABMET meetings, and the person who was the president told me, you should run for office at CABMET. And I was young. I was maybe like 30, maybe at the most.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people, probably my age now,
yeah,
in there. And I thought, I can't do this, big time imposter syndrome thing going on there. And he told me, Dave, like when I became the vice president, he told me, Dave, don't be scared, because you're already doing more than those other people that are sitting there watching you.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting up here and putting yourself out there, so you're already one step ahead of those people. And I was vice president, president, and board member in the Colorado Biomed Association, and I also did the certification review course for 15 years before it was sold to Amy. So that doing a presentation like this in front of all you today and having that imposter syndrome thing, I started small and kind of built up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've done hours and hours of presentations, but the first time getting up in front of that Biomed Association group and having to say anything, I thought they're all going to think I'm an idiot, and that I'm a young person trying to tell them what's going on. They've been doing this for years, but you can start small and build up.
Mm-hmm. Everybody in here part of your local HTM organization? Yeah.
What's the one here in this area?
It's HTMA North Texas.
North Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's very great.
Good way to meet people and good way to network people.
Yeah. Before I left, I was on the board of the organization. Just doing my part and being a part of the team. Right.
All the people in Colorado are like, Dave, how do you know all these people?
Yeah.
Because I go to the Biomed Association meetings and I meet them through that.
That's it. And my next slide is kind of piggyback on that one. This is you.
Oh. Take ownership of your job responsibilities. It's up to you to succeed. Admit to mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. So when I was a younger tech, I worked in imaging, and it was one of my first jobs when I was out of the military. And one of the accounts that we had was the Colorado State University. They have a big vet hospital there. And I worked at the vet hospital, and they had all these machines there, all these x-ray machines that were made to work on animals more than they were on people. So this one machine that they had, it was formerly a mammo machine, but it was converted to be a bird x-ray machine and small animal x-ray machine. So they have an engineering group there that converted it, and they don't follow the same requirements like FDA and that we do, because it's used on animals, it's not used on people. So this machine was converted to be this mammal machine was now a bird x-ray machine, or a small, like, I guess, gerbils, mice, whatever, like they could x-ray them, any small animal. I was doing the PM on it, and I was just following what I had. I didn't really have, I kind of had a generic PM sheet because it was kind of in a unique machine, and I went from like the lower settings up to the higher settings, blasted one of the higher settings. Everything stopped working. Like, uh-oh, you know, like there was no error or anything, and I couldn't shoot any more x-rays, and I had a little fluoro screen, and I'd put that out in the field, and I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see anything on my test equipment. Uh-oh, this is bad. Call my boss. Boss, I think I blew up the tube. And it was an integrated tube, meaning the transformer and everything was in the tube. And it was an expensive tube. I think I probably lost all the profits that we were planning on making on that account. And my one mistake that I did, blowing up that tube and having to call my boss. And it was not an easy tube to get, but I felt pretty stupid. But my boss was glad that I admitted to my mistake and I moved on, and, you know, I took ownership of it. And then he called in some of the more senior people that worked with me to come out and help me. It was in northern Colorado, so it's like an hour away from where we were in Denver. But he called in some of the more advanced techs to come and help me out and make sure I was right about blowing up the tube. And sure enough, I was. And I was kind of in the doghouse a little bit, but I think the boss was happy that I admitted to what I did, or what I messed up. And it's always bad when you try to make up lies and you get lost in your lies and try to get lost in your stories, and it'll always catch up with you. So it's better off to just admit the stuff right away and like tell them. I see you shaking your head. You have a story too like that? Yeah, similar. Yeah, so that's my advice to you as a beginning tech is
admit ownership.
Yeah, take ownership.
Stories, same.
Similar.
Pretty sure we all have similar stories, right? So it's part of the job, right? Okay, my next one is network. Build and nurture your network. Relationships are one of the biggest career assets. Connect with peers, leaders, and vendors. You never know where opportunities will come from. So my little tidbit about this is MD Expo. As I said before, I was like 10 years into my career, just coasting through, doing my job, but not really feeling, connected. So the MD Expo came here to Dallas. It must have been 2015 or 16. And I attended that event. And it was at the correct time because I saw all of these people, that do what I do, and I could see that the field was going somewhere. And so I like to run my mouth a lot. And I went around and met people. And from that one conference, I became an adjunct professor because people kept on talking about this lady, Jewel Newell. Jewel. I'm like, who is Jewel? I want to meet her. When I met her, introduced her, she was a director at a college. And I'm like, I teach, and talk to her. And she hired me to be an adjunct professor. And then John Wallace, who's over TechNation magazine, I met him and like, all right. And, and he hired me to do some writing for the magazine. But that all happened because I was networking. So you go into events, don't be afraid to go introduce yourself, shake hands, ask questions, be curious, and you never know what kind of opportunities come from that. So that's the deal. Make sure
that's kind of how we got together too. For this presentation.
Yeah.
Douglas said he's done a lot of presentations, but in California, last MD Expo in the spring this year, he was doing a presentation at the same time I was doing a presentation. And we both realized, I think we were kind of competing against each other doing the same presentation.
Yeah.
So I had the initial idea for this, and I contacted MD Publishing because I didn't have Douglas's contact info. And I said, can I get Douglas's email or any contact? And they sent it to me. And that's when we started talking, and all from being at the MD Expo together.
Yeah. Yeah. So make sure you're networking, people. Very, very important.
The whys. Try to learn the whys, not just the answer. This will help you in the future. I remember when I was a beginning tech and I was in the military, I had a bunch of, there was other military techs, and then there was civilian people that I worked with. And the civilian people, the military techs kind of cycled in and out of the shop like every 2-3 years. You get a new duty assignment and you're gone on to your next thing. But the civilian techs, they were there for a long time. They were working in that shop for quite a while. And me being the new person, whenever I'd have a PM on my list that I didn't know how to do, or I'd have questions, I'd go to one of the civilian techs and ask them a bunch of questions. And they told me, Dave, don't come to me and ask me any questions unless you've looked it up in the manual. And I was like, what an a-hole, like, and they said, if you have a question, bring the manual with you and show us in the manual where you have a question at. And I thought, oh, these guys are being real jerks to me. You know, they won't just tell me the answers.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, that's probably one of the biggest helps that they gave me. Was it's kind of that teaching someone to fish thing.
Yeah.
And you have fish forever instead of just giving them a fish. And that's kind of what they were doing with me. And I didn't really realize it at the time. And it kind of upset me a little bit, but then it helped me in the long run. And also when you're troubleshooting something, maybe you can figure out why something failed. I have a department that I used to take care of. It's the burn ICU. And they kept having these pulse oximeter errors on a Philips monitoring system. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I had a pulse oximeter cable, and it was causing SpO2 malfunction on the X3, the little patient monitor. And as soon as I would plug in that cable, it would say SpO2 malfunction. And I called Philips tech support, and I was talking to them, and they said, wow, we've never ran into that before. You know, we're going to send out a field service tech to come and look at that. I said, okay. And I put the cable aside and saved it by my desk. And a person came out a couple days later, and I was so happy. I was like, man, these Philips guys don't even know this, and I figured it out.
Yeah.
I plugged in the cable. I said, watch this. Plugged it in, put it on my simulator, plugged it in, and it worked perfectly. Like, oh, are you kidding me? You know, like, I look like an idiot now. You know, like, what's going on here? Over time, I figured out that in the burn ICU, they have a tub room, and they were treating washing the patients, debriding skin, that kind of thing in the tub room. And they dunked the cable where it connected, the patient cable part connected to the main trunk cable was getting dunked in the water. And when I saw it, it was still kind of wet inside there. You know, sitting a few days, it dried out. And when the field service person came in, it was dried out and it worked perfectly. But then I started looking closer at it, and I saw that the pins were kind of like a green color. And the connectors are copper connectors, and so copper and water, you know, turns green on that white connector. And I started talking to some people, and they said, oh yeah, every now and then the cables get dunked in the water, you know. And I was like, that's it, you know, that's the why. I figured out why, you know. Now I know for future, maybe just let the cable dry out for a few days and it's okay. But then I found out over time, if the cable got even wet a little bit again, it would fail right away. So I told them, you know, like, you probably shouldn't be using these cables if we dunk them in the water. And they tried to get me to figure out how can we make it waterproof, you know, and they contacted the manufacturer and cable people, and we never really got anywhere. So if anyone has an idea to waterproof cables, maybe that's your little niche in the market where you can like retire when you're 49, like my friend did, with a lot of money. But yeah, and we were looking at like doing little floaties on the cables or something like that. And we never did figure out a way, because without modifying things. But I figured out the why. Finally, it took me a little while, but that's always something you want to try to look at, and it'll help you in the future.
Yeah, yeah. You said a good point, because my boss is here. I'm not gonna look at him, but in our one-on-ones, I've gone to him before and I've asked a question, and he's kind of shoot me back to like, did you research it? Did you try to figure it out first?
That reminds me of one of my friends. He's retired Chief Warrant Officer 5, and I went to tech school with him when I was just barely in the Army. And he's Chief Warrant Officer 5. There's no Chief Warrant Officer 6. That's as high as it goes. So he is like the highest in that technical field officer. And he told me, whenever I go to talk to the colonel, I bring up a problem to him, but I always want to be the answer person. So he said, I always have at least 2 answers to tell the colonel. So he doesn't look at me as the problem person. He looks at me as the answer person.
That's good.
So be the answer person. We don't have that on here, but
be the answer person.
Yeah.
Good. I'm going to be the answer person. Okay. So find a mentor and be coachable. You can all read the slide, but it goes without, you know, saying, in my career, I've always sought after people who I see doing things or in levels that I want to be in. And they don't come to you often. I go to them. I've gone to people and say, hey, you're my mentor. And most times, well, not most times, they've always accepted, right? And so it just gives me an opportunity to ask questions, right? We're all curious. You see somebody doing something. How did they get there? What are they doing, right? And so you want to take the initiative, especially if you want to grow, right? And so you look out and identify the people who are doing the things that you want to do or that you admire, and you kind of just shadow them a little bit. At least have the door open where you can ask questions. But that's the main thing. How? Why? Where did you get that information from? You want to be able to have that kind of relationship with people. It takes you a very long way, and it keeps you out of the box, right? And also, as far as the imposter syndrome piece of it, it gives you that confidence to go forward, because this is what really matters. If you see somebody that's doing it, once you get close to them and you can see that they're human, they're not a superhero kind of person. They're just like you, and then it makes you know that if they're doing it, I can do it too, right? And so seek out mentorship.
I think that having that person too, that's someone that kind of has your back too, and you can go to them with issues or problems. One of the things that I have tried to do at MD Expo is team up with other new presenters, like a lot of the younger people. Claire's sitting up here on the front row. I did her first presentation with her at MD Expo in California, and I'd say I'm kind of a mentor to her, but I mean, having her, knowing that I had her back in the presentation, she was very nervous and was kind of scared, and she would be hiding behind that podium over there and presenting, not standing like where we are. But everybody starts somewhere, and having someone that can help you out and has your back makes a huge difference. So having a mentor like that, and it's a good idea to seek them out, like you said.
And be open to feedback and willing to learn. That's the main part, because sometimes, some people will give you some information, now you don't want to hear it, right?
Just like the guys that made me look it up in the service manual.
Yeah, so be open to it. And also, so I know everybody here is not young or new tech, so for our seasoned people, also seek to be a mentor, right? What we're doing right now, we're just sharing some tidbits from our years of experience, right? Some things that we think are helpful. And so if you've been in the field for a while, you have some experience, you have some things to share, right? And it's real fulfilling when, like, I see a bunch of my students here at this conference. It's a very fulfilling thing to know that you helped guide somebody's career. So also seek to be a mentor to someone, okay?
Ups and downs. Your career could have some setbacks. You might not progress in a straight line. There'll be some ups and downs, and don't get discouraged. That's just normal. Everyone has ups and downs in their career. I think I told you that I worked in management before, and I took a step back from management and became a tech again, and worked in imaging equipment, and now I work as a tech now. I'm no longer in management, but I didn't have that linear line. It kind of went down and went up there, kind of a little zigzags along the way. So that's normal. Don't get discouraged. And if you have a good network and kind of that stuff that we were talking about before, that'll help you out, maybe getting to where you want to be.
Good. Just the reality, huh? Okay. My part, stay curious and keep learning. This is one of the coolest part about jobs. Monday, went to talk to a bunch of high school students. We spoke to about 120 high school students, telling them about this career over in Garland, Texas. And this was one of my main topics when I was talking about how cool our industry is, and it's the fact that it's constantly growing. I think 10 years ago we weren't thinking about cybersecurity the way we think about it now, right? Or AI, right? And so as technology changes, as things evolve, our job is shifting, and that's really a good thing for us, right? Because it makes you have to keep learning, and gaining new knowledge. So you want to make sure that you're keeping up with this. Don't let yourself, don't be like, well, I talk too much. Blockbuster. Anybody know what Blockbuster is? Right? I just watched it. I don't want to go on a rabbit, but I just watched that on Blockbuster. The reason why they failed is because they didn't adapt, right? Things started changing. Redbox, they had an opportunity to buy Netflix, I think, but they wanted to keep to that old mode, and they got, Redbox too, right? And so they went away. And so in your career, if you want to grow and you want to advance, then you had a wonderful opportunity to change with the technology. So the main thing that helps you do that is you're staying curious. You're reading, you're learning, and you're being excited about all the changes, right? So make sure that you're keeping your skills up, and it makes you more valuable, right?
That kind of ties in with what we talked about earlier, being the person that looks at that new equipment. So if there is something that you don't know, you can research it before anybody else knows it, and then they'll never know that you didn't know it.
Right. Google is your friend. Right.
Troubleshooting. This is always something I tell young people is I always look for the easy stuff first. if you have, it's not always going to be a solid state component that's burnt out. If I have, I don't know, like a portable blood pressure machine, I plug it into the wall and it's not charging the battery, I don't automatically assume it's the battery, or I don't automatically assume it's the charging circuit. I'll probably look at, is the light coming on when I plug it in the wall? Is the little LED indicator? Is the power cord good? Because I know it rolls around a lot and people plug it and unplug it a lot, and they might yank on the cord and maybe pulled the wires out. That's like one of the most common things, but it's one of the easiest things too. It's not always going to be a blown fuse or a blown, I don't know, like transformer or you know, a bridge rectifier or whatever on the thing. I would always lean towards something easy first before I'd go into in depth of looking at the more difficult things.
Yeah, for sure. How often, I mean, the picture, how often is it that, right? Anybody ever spent an hour or two working on something and then you forgot the simple step? Anybody experienced that, right?
I have.
Tech, you know, it was
or
for sure.
or even the power and the outlet's bad, not working. I've done that one before too, where I've been looking at something. Why isn't this thing working? And finally check the outlet. I'm like, oh, there's no, the circuit breaker's tripped here. There's no power in the outlet.
I've definitely experienced being on call, and I live in Fort Worth. My hospital's in Dallas. Made that drive, and you know, the switch wasn't on, you know, but that was my job on the call, right, to ask. You know, sometimes they don't want to answer, but is it on? I know it sounds bad, but could you just check to see if the anyway?
And usually they'll tell you yes, and then you get there and it might not be the same case.
Right. Be adaptable and team oriented. HTM is full of moving parts. Be flexible, willing to pitch in, and show that you can thrive in different situations. So I've seen different techs. I think I'm speaking to younger people who kind of, because they don't have the confidence, they kind of sit in the shadows a little bit and don't raise their hand. So for anybody who does that, I would just want to let you know that the main thing is to get out there and try something. Did I hear that? Oops. Right, try something. Be a part of the team. Make yourself available. Be team oriented, and see and recognize that your biomed shop, the team that you're on, it is a team, right? And some people we have different personalities. I know my guy back here, he worked at a shop where it was an older tech, and he knows he has very knowledgeable, but he's not going to say, "Come with me." So interesting. So I worked at a hospital. This older guy, he has his own ways, and he would get up and do everything. The people would call the shop and ask for him. And so in order to make myself a part of the team, I had to follow him, you know, and make him teach me, right? But that was me taking initiative and making sure that I was flexible and I could pitch in when I got a chance. So make sure you assert yourself, make sure you make yourself available and be ready to go. And sometimes this is what I'm saying is you're creating your career. You're making it happen. You're not waiting for somebody to ask you, hey, come join me. I want to learn this stuff. I want to be great. And so whatever it takes, I'm going to be flexible and make it happen. Right?
To me, this one is really big. Believe in yourself. You were hired because someone saw something in you.
Yeah.
That's kind of going back to that imposter syndrome at the very beginning, that a lot of time you might not see things in yourself that other people see. And I remember when I went to biomed school in the military and I graduated and I met this person. He was actually a reservist that was activated during Desert Storm when I was in the military. And he worked on the outside, and my goal was always to work on the outside of the military as a civilian. And I told him, you know, like, I don't think I know that much, and I don't really know if I'm really ready to work as a civilian in biomed. And he said, Dave, you probably know a lot more than you think you know. You just don't have the confidence in yourself to know that. And he said the military biomed school that you went to is probably one of the best in the world, and that's where you got your training at, and you have a good base to build on. And just having him tell me that made a big difference in my confidence and believing in myself. And remember, when you start a job, that's why they hired you, because they saw something in you and they thought you'd be able to succeed. So they have your best interest at heart, and they're believing in you, and you should believe in yourself.
Anybody believe in themselves? Do you believe in yourself? Good.
Good to hear.
right? This is the best,
I like that
the
picture.
best image, right? Okay.
That's one of my favorite pictures in this slideshow.
Right here, think long-term career, not just daily tasks. Set goals, track progress, and visualize the kind of HTML professional you want to become. Every day is a step toward a bigger vision. So this part is major. You're taking ownership of your career, ownership of your life. What's the ultimate plan? Where do you want to go? Right? Sometimes people, I want a job, and they get the job, and then you kind of just sit in it. You stop dreaming. The most important thing is to always think with the big picture, always dreaming, always looking forward. When you're looking forward, you know what it helps you do? Not to be stuck in today, right? So if you're not where you want to be right now, it's okay. It's okay when you know where you're going, right? So what gets you stuck is when you don't have any vision for the future. Then that makes everything, rough. Oh, I'm going to job. I'm going to work. Oh, I don't like working on pumps, that kind of stuff. But when you know there's something else ahead of you, it gives you the motivation to move forward. You have a little pep to your step when it's that time. So make sure you're always thinking about the big picture. What are your goals, right? Why are you doing what you're doing? Is it just for a paycheck? Of course not, right? There's something more.
That's a job, not a career.
That's a job, not a career, right? So this is a wonderful industry. There's so many different things you could be doing, and so you get to plan it out and make that happen. So think about that. Write your goals down. Visualize your future. Determine where you want to go. Determine who you want to be, and you can make that happen, right? Nothing's stopping you.
That kind of goes back to that slide we had earlier about starting young or starting early and the tuition reimbursement and all that I said. You might be stuck where you're at now, but if you're going to school and studying for bigger stuff, it's eventually going to come. It's eventually going to happen. And keep an eye on that longer term thing. It might not be all rosy right at the minute, but if you keep working towards something, you're gonna get there.
Okay. Now for the cool part, guess what? We did it. We didn't know. So we got together. We had already had it, and we said I sent in a few things that I thought I wanted to share, and we combined them and took some out, and we didn't know.
We're right on time.
Yeah,
we're supposed to allow some time for questions.
To the good part now, which is questions and comments, like some feedback. We can talk. So,
or any stories that you want to share with us that kind of relate to imposter syndrome or what we talked about.
I have a good one on the spot, Mr. Ray Laxton. What advice would you give? What's something that you would tell a young person just starting out? What's something you would tell a young person, just some advice for a young tech?
So I love what you're going to do in 45 years. So around.
Yeah.
They were still teaching two technologies.
Yeah.
Everything they're telling you is right. And this is going to sound odd, but if you're young, one of the things the slide, I really think you need to take hold of is
oh yeah,
the plan for the future financial.
Mm-hmm.
Do that.
The more time you have, the more it's going to add up.
Makes it.
That curve gets steeper the longer time you have in there.
Presentation, but when you're telling me it's rock solid, and that's the
Thank you.
Follow to be successful. So you've got some great leaders here that are teaching you, and I've been in the field a long time, and I can testify to the fact that everything they're telling you here is true. I found it to be true in my own life and in those that I've worked.
Excellent. Thank you.
Coming from you, that means a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Joe.
Oh, with age comes knowledge, though, right? Yeah. Yeah. Don't keep repeating the same problems. Yeah.
Things that you were talking about there is job versus career. And in my career, I spent 3 years as a recruiter, strictly for Biomed and imaging positions. And I spoke to over 6,000 technicians across the country. And when I would be talking to them about their career, all they talked about was, well, the company didn't send me to school, advanced. So then I asked them, what did you do? You have your associate degree. Now back then, they had a lot of military coming out. And they had the opportunity by taking, I think it was like 6 courses, that some of them they couldn't collect, and get their associate's degree from Regis College. Now, this gets back to Fitzsimmons. And it's amazing because I was talking to some of my classmates as a recruiter. I had gotten my associates, and out of a class of about 30, there was only about 4 of us that did it. And they couldn't understand why they couldn't move forward. And at that time, I was talking to people that were vice presidents of Marquette, vice presidents of Philadelphia Phillips. They were telling me, we're looking for somebody, don't send me a candidate unless they have associates.
Right.
And so I would be telling these people, this is what you can do easily. You can prepare. You can prepare yourself. You need to move that extra step.
Yeah. Take ownership.
Man, for a long time from Phillips. And I told him, I said, look, they said, do you have your bachelor's degree? He says, no. I said, well, in the next 6 months, there's going to be a mandate comes out that you enroll in a program. Oh, no. He says, I've been here for 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, in 6 months, he was calling me up saying, hey, you got a job?
Right.
If you're going to work in management, you probably much need a bachelor's degree. And if you're going to work as a director, you probably need a master's degree.
Yeah.
And especially if you work in a hospital system, and if it's an educational hospital, like I work for the University of Colorado Health, so all the people that have higher positions all have higher degrees.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Joe. But very strong. You continue your education. I made that, not mistake, but early on in my career when the CBET started getting popular, I was like, I'm already doing a job. What do I need to get that for?
I was having lunch
it's been great.
yesterday with some younger people, and they worked at Children's Hospital here, one of the Children's Hospital. I don't remember what one was it? Children's Health. And you told me, I thought I recognized, you told me that any position above Tech 2 required certification.
Wow.
To get from Tech 1 to Tech 2.
Tech 2.
Wow.
Or Tech 3, so anything higher.
And starting out in the Tech 1. And then I couldn't move into a Tech 2, even though I was doing all these high-risk devices. I was over steam sterilizers, I was over ventilators, I was over ESUs as a Tech 1. Because
wow. You didn't have that box checked yet, huh? Or that piece of paper, as my friend calls.
Immediately, I haven't seen that, got my 2 years under my belt.
Damn.
I made a Tech 2. I'm still continuing. I have more certifications under my belt than our 3 Tech 3s in our shop.
Are you doing IT certifications now? Or what are the other ones?
Certifications, like I just got back from Bayer.
Oh, okay, like manufacturer certifications. Okay,
Great.
yeah.
Ounce, and that's one point I want to make, that if your hospital has, like, they're calling in the OEM to fix these things, or they have a third-party contract, find out how much they're spending and then research the
It's an opportunity.
Training. Yeah.
It may be cheaper for them to pay to send you to training so that they can bring those services in-house, and when something breaks down, they're calling you, they're not calling third party or OEM or something.
Thank you.
They push you not only where you're working, but in the future.
Very good. Thank you.
Point.
Ray, you gonna say something?
So I wanted a story. It's not about me, but a guy that I hired. He was young and very aggressive. Knew exactly what he wanted to do, but the one thing that impressed me was he always prepared for the next job or the job after that that he wanted to do. He was 24 years old and he ran for city council. He was coaching the wrestling team in the high school. I mean, this guy had an
Overachiever.
overachiever. When I hired him, I said, I'm going to be working for you someday. And you know what? I did. He became the president of the company, Biomed, of the Aeromark Biomed. That's Brian Papa.
Okay.
And then he went on to become president over a food service company and his boss. But the one thing he did was always prepare himself for the next job or the next job. Don't wait till you want the job to do the preparation
Excellent.
things. And if you think that's the direction you might want to go, start preparing.
Excellent.
That kind of goes back to that saying about dress for the job that you want to have, not the the job that you currently have.
Excellent.
But it's more than just dressing that way. It's being prepared.
Being prepared.
more.
That's good. Thank you for that. Any other question, comments, Cameron?
In your situation, RP, and the manager, you had a mission statement. Has that mission statement changed as you became regional director, or is that still the same? It's from maintaining
The mission statement for the hospital, for my personal mission statement. Oh no, it hasn't changed. No, it's my guiding point. So yeah. So I always have something in mind. So I'm a corny kind of person. I have a whole bunch of quotes and different things that I recite to myself and share with my team. And one of them is, I don't know if you're talking about the subtle and seemingly inconsequential adjustments, transform wishes and aspirations to desired results. And so my team like, oh, there you go with that again. But I believe that, when you set your mind on something, we all can be great with some small adjustments. You're here, you're doing good, and it's just like visualizing where you want to be and what you want to do, what your goals are, and making a slight adjustment. That could be waking up a little earlier, going to bed a little later, 1 extra hour reading, something small daily, consistently can change your life up. Yeah, so yeah, I definitely keep the same motto, same mission.
I'll say volunteer. I had a boss in California who volunteered me to be the lightning rod with IT.
Joe, that's called voluntold.
I learned a lot about cybersecurity. I wrote 20 articles for TechNation on cybersecurity. I worked with 2 of the leading cyber, which design their software to integrate with the Biomedical. One of them was CloudHost, which is now Order, and then the other one was Zingbox, which is now Palo Alto. So
good point.
I knew nothing really about IT. I knew how to connect the monitor to the network, but I really didn't understand all the cyber stuff. But because I got volunteers,
Just get in there. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Good.
Right.
Definitely.
Voluntold. You were in the military, Joe. You know what voluntold is.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, take every opportunity to put yourself in a situation to learn, right? And don't be afraid to struggle. So yeah, definitely volunteer, get yourself out there, hop in, make mistakes. I used to own a recording studio. And for the people that come in and sing, I used to tell them crack, because they would get in there and be timid on the microphone. And so now they're not singing their best. And so I would say, crack, just let it go. We're gonna fix it, And so that's one of the deals that you can in your life and your career, just crack, don't give it out, give it your all. It'll be okay. Anybody else?
Anyone else? Thanks everybody for joining us. We're right,
8:57.
like a couple 7 minutes back. Thanks a lot.
Excellent. So we say this. Thank you all very much.